Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the Synergen Leadership Podcast. For those of you who are listening for the very first time, my name is Julian, Carle, and I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Synergen Group. I'm passionate about all things leadership and management, so passionate in fact that I decided to start a podcast about it. And here we are finishing season 2, and my purpose for the podcast continues to be the same, to raise the standard of leadership. In today's show, I take the time to reflect on season 2 and what it has meant for us, for our guests, and for you, most importantly, our listeners. So keep listening. As always, would really like to hear what you think about our little podcast. And if there are any leadership or management ideas or content that you would like me to explore on the show in next season, please send me through an email or LinkedIn message. Now on with the show. Happy listening.
Welcome to the Synergen Leadership Podcast with Julian Carle. Julian returns in 2019 with weekly conversations with leaders and authors from Australia and around the world, giving you the opportunity to share in their journey and learn from their expertise and knowledge. Julian also shares some of the tools and techniques he uses as a leader, mentor, and facilitator, helping you to build your leadership capability and improve your confidence as a leader.
Well, at the end of season 1, I finished the season off by, I suppose, just taking the time to do a little reflection about what the podcast has meant for us for season 1. And I thought it's a trend that I think I would like to continue in terms of just really taking the time to have a bit of a reflection about what it's meant and the people that I've been able to interview and the content we've been able to put together and the things that we've changed about the podcast. Because one of the things that we are committed to at Synergen Group is the idea that every podcast season is going to be a little different, in that we're always going to try and make it a little better. And I think we've done that. I think that a couple of little things we've done this season is we have improved our introductions. I believe we give a lot more insight into the person that I'm going to be interviewing, which I think really helps you as a listener get a sense and flavour of the interview. We've also added in a slightly better outro as well to our podcast here. So I think when it's all pieced together, it has made season 2 a much better season than season 1. Not in terms of guests, just in terms of the overall feel and flavour of the podcast. So this is the 100th episode, so I suppose that in itself is something that's actually quite amazing, because most podcasts don't actually get past 7 episodes, according to a lot of the stats, and it's really been quite a journey. And I do have to thank Alison, who is the producer of the podcast, because essentially way back in season 1, I did roll up at the office one day and basically said, I love listening to podcasts, so I think we should do one. And Alison had never done anything like that in her life, so she had to learn everything there was to learn about editing software and how to actually release a podcast and RSS feeds and all this stuff. So I think from me as the interviewer and from Alison as a producer, it really is a tag team effort. Neither of us could do it without the other. So I think, Alison doesn't really get the opportunity to speak to all the guests, but she's the one that makes all the interviews sound amazing. So I think, I really do want to recognise Alison's efforts on putting this podcast together. So to give you a couple of interesting stats about season 2, we actually released 12 curriculum ecosystem episodes. So this was actually quite a deliberate thing that we wanted to do in this season, in that we wanted to be a little bit more structured about our content episodes, and we very much wanted to tie them back to the content that we're actually delivering in our face-to-face leadership programs. So the reason we wanted to do that is that I know that in any type of face-to-face leadership program, that sometimes people really latch on to a particular topic or piece of content, or they resonate with something and they want more. And so what we thought is that we'd give them more by giving them, generally a 25-minute, 30-minute audio through the podcast format in terms of the content. So to give you a sense of some of the things that we've done, we've spoken about setting expectations. We've spoken about 5 levels of customer value. Emotional intelligence went across 2 episodes. We've spoken about communication, conflict management, stakeholder management, how to be a better networker, how to think about leadership enablement, how we manage risk, the Johari window, and the episode most recent was the 9-box grid. So when you start to look at all of those episodes together, that is quite a comprehensive body of work for someone to listen to, because it gives them such great tools across all these different aspects of leadership. Now, we don't always deliver our own content, because we don't believe that you just need to reinvent the wheel for the sake of reinventing the wheel. And so what we do, though, is we do like to think that we add our flavour to it, and we try to turn it into a very practical concepts, so that you can do what is really important with any sort of leadership development. That is, take it out of theory stage, concept stage, idea stage, and turn it into something which you can actually apply in your leadership. And as I go through that list, it's a lot of stuff there, and I feel quite proud that we've been able to release so many great episodes of content. And to give you the I suppose the structure of it, we do try to have 3 types of episodes, one being business leaders, another one being either authors or thought leaders, and the third type of episode we do is content. And it's always the content ones which quite often land with people. And it's interesting because at the end of every content episode, I do always put it out there that if you do want the materials that we use in our face-to-face training, you just need to hit me up. Hit me up via LinkedIn. I'm always very easy to find there, or through our website, or however you want to do it. And just ask me for the materials, and I'm more than happy to send you through some of the training materials that we use in our face-to-face training. Because for me, the podcast is really about this idea of raising the standard of leadership, and if we can contribute in any small way to do that and make workplaces a greater place to work for all the people that work in them, because we've had an impact on their leaders, well, I think that's a really important aspect of what we do. Season 2 was also a little special because we had 2 people join the Synergen 2-Timers Club. So we had first person to join that was Toby Hall, who is the Group CEO of St. Vincent's Health Australia. And we didn't want to repeat the same type of episode that we did in Season 1, where we spoke about Toby's journey and how he got to where he was. So we focused it in on something which Toby was really passionate about, which is this idea of purpose. And it was a really powerful interview, I thought, where we're able to delve into this idea of purpose, what it means to Toby as a leader, and what it means to the organisation. And it was great to be able to continue the relationship with a guest into a second conversation about something which I think is very, very relevant in leadership. And the second person we had join the Synergen 2-Timers Club was David Pitch, who's the CEO of the Institute of Managers and Leaders. And David came on again, and we spoke in detail about the book that he has part authored, part curated as part of his role there. And it was another really good conversation, because we're able to explore that. And we did, in that episode, get a Synergen first, so we got some insight into what the third book is in the series that they're thinking about over there. So I was very pleased with that. And I think one of the other things that really came through in terms of some of the thought leaders that we interviewed. So to give you some context, I had 24 books that we explored during the course of Season 2. And they were from authors such as, Jen Jackson, Scott Stein, Brian Whitefield, Jeremy Nichols, Michelle Gibbons, Karen Morley. We had Wendy Bourne, we had Gabrielle Dolan, Yu Danchi, Shelley Flett, Kieran Flanagan, Dan Gregory, Troy McKenna, the list goes on. And it was really interesting because one of the things that enabled me to do was also support my publisher, Leslie Williams, who runs a publishing firm called Major Street Publishing, which is, I had quite a few authors come on, and it was really nice to be able to share a conversation with them and really just enjoy that community that we're building through the podcast, and being able to support other small businesses such as Major Street Publishing, who most recently are growing quite well, and I think they're the fourth largest or fourth fastest growing business publisher in Australia. So that's a great outcome. So cheers to Leslie. And I suppose following on from that, I have had quite a few people come to me via Scott Ethorn, who's a PR champion, and he's very able to get opportunities for people to appear on podcasts and appear in writing. So cheers to Scott, who's been able to also been helping us in terms of finding great people to speak to. So we also spoke to 13 business leaders during the course of the conversation, the season. And it was really interesting because there's probably a little bit of a shift from season one. Season one, we probably had more business leaders and less authors, and the season two probably shifted a little the other way again. But we had all sorts of people come on board. We had Jason Cunningham, who you probably know from Channels 10's The Living Room, and he runs a financial firm called The Practice, and it was a really interesting chat with Emma Bannister, who runs a firm called Presentation Studio, where they help speakers and authors and people who need to do presentations nail their presentations. And I found that one really interesting because it was a niche that you wouldn't necessarily think you could build a business out of, and Emma has done that. We spoke to people like Travis Jones, who's from the fitness industry, and Jane Ward from Australia Post, and we spoke to, interestingly, Joe Burston, who is a very successful entrepreneur, and he's very, very passionate about mentoring. So we had a conversation all about mentoring, which I thought was really interesting, because it's always good to get different views about things that you're passionate about. And I suppose one of the interviews that I've really been recommending people go back and listen to is episode 80, which is where I interviewed Anna Feringa. So I was lucky enough to come across Anna Feringa because we were doing a leadership program for one of our clients, and as part of that program, they wanted to bring in specialists in certain areas, and they brought in Anna to do a session on mental health. It's a topic which is very important. It's a topic which impacts us all, and some people are quite open about it, and other people find it a bit more challenging to be open about it. But it was a really powerful time when I was sitting in the room and hearing Anna talk about her experiences in delivering the training, and talking about where Australia is at in terms of corporate responsibility, in terms of workplace mental health. And because I actually loved what she did so much, I invited her back onto the show because I thought it was such an important topic to share. And I'm not the right person to share. I'm more the conduit, whereas Anna is the expert in it. So I do really think that was a fantastic episode, which is something we should all be thinking about with the businesses that we work with and for, in terms of how can we really support people's mental health and really, make sure that we're looking after them as leaders, because it is one of the things that we have to do as a leader is look after the people that we work with. Also, one that really stuck in my head was episode 91, where I spoke to Gihan Pereira, who's a futurist. And the thing that stuck in my head about that interview was really this idea about change, and that innovation essentially is when we drive change. So in a business where we're trying to innovate all the time, stay ahead of the game, and that's really delivering change. And disruption is when change happens to us. And that's when we're not really prepared for it, or a competitor does something that was unexpected. And I think that was a really powerful model for me personally, because people talk on about industries being disrupted and blah, blah, blah. And it's never really resonated with me. And it wasn't until I heard Gihan's view on that's what disruption is that it really landed for me. And I thought that it was a really simple takeaway in terms of, are we driving change or are we reacting to change? And I think that, in today's modern business, we can't just sit around. We've got to be on the front foot. We've got to be trying to drive change. We've got to be innovative. We've got to be thinking about where we can take our businesses and where we can go, and what we're going to do to really be the best leaders we can be. And so it's interesting when you look back, and I'm just sort of perusing my printout of my schedule and looking at everything we've done, and I'm probably pretty proud to say that I think us reaching 100 episodes is an achievement that everyone in the Synergen business should be proud of. This is not our core business, obviously, because I think most people will tell you podcasts aren't necessarily a revenue stream. They're more a labour of love and passion, and I think it allows us to give back to the leadership community and just meet some amazing people and share their stories, which I think really allows us to be, like I said, that conduit. So I don't know if I need to reflect much more than that. I think it's been another great season. We are really looking forward to season 3. We've already recorded some of the episodes, and I can tell you now we've got some amazing episodes planned and really, really powerful content. We're going to increase the quality of the production side, so the podcast might sound a little different in terms of intros and outros and things like that. And again, just want to thank all of you who have reached out to us, left a rating or a review. I am going to encourage you again to please go onto the Apple site and leave us a review and a rating. Really does help us build awareness of the podcast, and it is something that I really want to do, because a lot of the work that these people that we speak to are doing is really valuable, and we really want to try to share that message with others in the leadership community to build their capability. So on that note, I think I'm probably going to wrap up my reflections. Do want to say again a big thank you to Alison, big thank you to all the rest of the Synergen team who puts up with me asking them to all be quiet at certain points in the day where I can come out to the back of into our little recording studio and record some episodes. So, and for everyone that of our guests who has either taken the time to come out to Synergen HQ, or I've gone out to see them, or we've done it via Zoom, it's been a pleasure actually getting to know you, getting to speak with you, and learning all about what you do. So on that note, I think that's pretty much it for Season 2. Stay tuned. Season 3, 14th of Jan 2020. We start off with a really powerful interview with a thought leader, and I kid you not, the book that we're going to talk about in that book is essentially a how-to manual if you're a senior leader, and I don't want to give away too much because I'm excited about it. I like the element of surprise, but you've got to make sure that you're listening to that episode. So until then, happy listening. Have a great, wonderful holiday period, and bye for now. That wraps up episode 100 of the Synergen Leadership Podcast, our final episode for Season 2. I'd like to thank everyone who has reached out to us, left a rating or review. It's always been great to hear from you. Really appreciate it. We are going to take a break for a couple of weeks before Season 3 starts on Tuesday, 14th of January 2020. It's going to be a great season. Until then, as always, love to hear what you think. Happy listening.